Hey, wage slaves, if you have a job, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I have a great guest coming in, a past guest, Kallen Diggs. He's the author of the international bestseller, Reaching the Finish Line. He's also helped over 2,000 people reach the finish line in their careers and develop their own businesses. And that's what I want to talk to him about today, is a lot about getting out of the rat race, becoming an entrepreneur, and even how if you do have a job, you're still an entrepreneur. And we're going to get into lots of things like that, how to reach the goals that you want in life. There's so many people out there who are unhappy with their job and they don't really do anything about it. And there's a lot of things they can do about it and change their lives. And Kallen's a real expert on that. So the last time we caught up with Kallen, he was in San Miguel de Allende, and he's now moved again. He's sort of a roaming entrepreneur, writer, author, and he's currently in Mexico still. He's in Querétaro State. And Kallen, good to have you back on.
Great to be back on, Jeff.
And so before we get into things like how to attain the goals you want, whether it be in a career or as an entrepreneur, and we'll be talking lots about that, just tell us how you ended up in Querétaro State this time.
Yeah, so I definitely advise everyone to check out the first interview that we did together, which that was when I made the move to Mexico. I didn't get shot. I didn't get kidnapped. I didn't get robbed. It was actually quite a safe travel. I lived in San Miguel de Allende for 7 months. But I was, there's so much to Mexico, so I was interested to venture out, and a lot of people recommended me to check out the state of Querétaro. And it's not a huge state, but there's so much it has going for it. The capital of Querétaro is the fastest growing city in Mexico. The economy is booming there. And I just took the opportunity to see the capital as well as some other places, San Juan del Rio, and then the place I'm living at now, which is Tequisquiapan. Tequisquiapan is probably like the place that you visited in the past, Jeff, called Tepoztlán. That's not too far from Mexico City. Tequisquiapan is very similar to that. It's a little bit bigger than that, but it's been a very interesting experience. I feel like this is probably one of the better cities to really experience Mexican culture. San Miguel has about 14,000 expats. And here it has less than 100, so it's a big difference. And really, I get to take the opportunity to improve my Spanish, but also look for business opportunities in a place like this.
Yeah, that's great. And I did enjoy Tepoztlán, which is south of Mexico City. Sort of a small town, but kind of artsy and neat. There's so many cities like that in Mexico. People have this idea that Mexico is just everyone's just Mexican and they just eat tacos and they're all the same. But Mexico is a huge country and widely diverse with so many interesting places. And due to the way that we actually work, I'm a permanent tourist or perpetual traveler or prior taxpayer, and you as well, or you don't really have a home base. You seem to be always moving from place to place. And we can do that because of our lifestyles as entrepreneurs. So I think a lot of people really want to hear more about how they can live more like us. What would you suggest to your average person? Let's say they're working at Walmart right now. Let's say they're 22, and then it could be someone who's 40 or 50. It doesn't matter the age, but hopefully if you're in your 40s or 50s, you're not just working as a cashier at Walmart. You really need to get going on improving your skills to get to a better place. Unless you love being a Walmart cashier, in that case, great, good for you. That's all you want. But what kind of advice would you give to people right off the bat on things like that?
For sure. Well, first of all, people who are working at Walmart, maybe working there for a while, I wouldn't put all my faith. I wouldn't put all your faith in Walmart, since Walmart has laid off 16,000 people. They closed over 150 plus stores. Perhaps it's typically not a place you want to invest your whole life at. The thing about employee loyalty, that's slowly going away, because when you look at the economy, it's preventing people from becoming loyal, because obviously big corporations like Walmart, they have to be fiscally responsible. So for them, if it's better for them to close stores or move overseas, that's what they're going to do. And if they have to lay someone off like you or someone else who's working at Walmart, then they're going to do that. So the first thing I would advise, Jeff, is for people to understand that they have to get outside of working from ordinary income, basically one-time income. Basically, you work for someone, you get paid, and that's it. As an entrepreneur, obviously, you want to invest a lot of time to develop an enterprise that's going to be sustainable for hopefully the rest of your life. And that's obviously much better than, again, doing one-off work, one-time work. You work 8 hours, you get paid for 8 hours. You do it again, you get paid for hours. Why not create something and where you can get passive income for it for the long term? So what you want to do is you need to make some sacrifices, okay? So for example, if you're a person that goes out a lot, if you go to the bar a lot, if you spend unnecessarily, if you have a spending problem, you can't manage your expenses responsibly, then that's something you're going to need to work on first. You have to learn how to be a better steward of your finances. Okay, there's people I've worked with in the past who've done just that. But now the situation about the name, Jeff, is not typical, but at the same time, like if you want to get out the U.S., if you want to be a global entrepreneur, if you want to have freedom and find better opportunities elsewhere, then this may be of good use. So I've worked with several people who work in North Dakota. And North Dakota, their specific region in western North Dakota is the Bakken oil fields. Okay, so primarily it's the western side of the state. Now, typically, there's no nightlife there. It's pretty much rural, but there's a lot of jobs there. Companies are very desperate and finding employees. I give you one example. Okay, so you have oil companies, entry level. You don't have to have a college degree. You don't have to have a high school diploma. As long as you have the physical aptitude, they'll give you a shot. They're so desperate that they're paying up to $30 an hour to find people. Full-time work, $30 an hour. Okay, let's say you say, well, I don't want to be doing that all day. I don't want to have to, go through the physical pains of that. Okay, let's say you want to do something more simple. Let's say you want to work at McDonald's or Taco John's or let's say Walmart. Okay, well, let's look at Walmart. Okay, Walmart is so desperate that they pay some entry-level employees $20 an hour to work there. Now, obviously, if you work elsewhere, getting paid $20 an hour, if you work elsewhere in a country working for Walmart, you're not going to get paid that much. But in Western North Dakota, yes, they're paying up to $20 an hour for certain entry-level employees. And again, that part of the state is very rural. There's no nightlife. Basically, people go there to work and save money. So that could be an opportunity for you to work and save money. Like, there's been a couple people I know who've worked there for 3 years and saved up $100,000. Now, some use that to start a business, others use it to do other things, but you don't have to save that much to move to Mexico or move anywhere else. But that's just one example there.
So many people have so many misconceptions about work, and definitely the communist types definitely do. They seem to think there's two classes of people. There's the capitalists or the business owners, and then there's the laborers, and the laborers are constantly being taken advantage of. But the way I look at the world is we're all workers. I work every day of my life. In fact, I work way harder than most people who consider themselves to be workers, and take a lot more risks, of course, because of being an entrepreneur. But people just need to get out of the mindset of, I'm a worker, I'm a laborer, I should join a union so I can get more money. It's like, no, improve yourself and go look for places where there is opportunities, as Kallen pointed out. Now, North Dakota, that might be changing. So I got a huge helicopter or something flying behind me. But that might be changing with the drop in price of oil, but that's how the economy works. That's how life works. Things change, and you got to roll with the punches and find new opportunities. And you were pointing out too, Kallen, that they're in Querétaro. I know that state has been absolutely booming. So that might be a place that people may want to consider going.
For sure. And about the oil, you're right. That's definitely tapering off. The demand of jobs is not as high as it was a year or 2 years ago, but they're still looking for people. I stay in contact with previous clients, stay in contact with the people that I have, interview, obtain information from peers that I've worked with. So again, if that's not an option, let's say you're afraid of cold weather. You also have West Texas. West Texas is another region that also has lots of jobs, has more jobs than people. That's something to consider. As far as Querétaro, absolutely. I would definitely advise people, depending on which entrepreneur path they want to go through. You could be a lifestyle entrepreneur like myself. You can be a social entrepreneur. You can be a serial entrepreneur. You can be a franchise entrepreneur. Like, there's so many paths. But Querétaro does have a lot of opportunities. And like, I can tell you here, like, there's lots of businesses that you can open up here. Like, now, don't get me wrong. If you want to go the route, let's say to apply for, let's say a formal, work visa. I mean, absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But what I can tell you is there are expats who are starting businesses in booming economies like Querétaro who have no work visa. I mean, again, you have to make the decision for yourself. But I know people, San Miguel, Querétaro, and other places who have successful businesses without a work visa. Cops don't bother them. Essentially, as long as you don't make too much money, they won't bother you. But the opportunities are plentiful. You can have a restaurant. You can obviously look at deficiencies, things that they don't have in Mexico. You see it's working in the U.S. You can duplicate that model in Mexico. Again, the opportunities are plentiful.
Yeah, I'm not sure you even really need legally. Not that it matters too much in Mexico, as you know. There isn't that big government. There isn't this government everywhere watching everything you do, regulating everything. But I think even legally, if you just start a business in Mexico, I don't think you legally have to have a work visa here. So that's another thing. And so there's so many more options when you look around the world at things you can do, and definitely starting your own businesses is usually the way to go. But even if you are just working in a job, you should be considering yourself as a entrepreneur, and your business is you, and you should be looking for ways to improve the services to your one customer at that moment in time, which is your employer, to improve your value, to get more money, essentially, and also to look to possibly even get into here's one thing that many people don't even think about that to me is just obvious, is to try to become a contractor for whatever employer you're working for. So if you have a job with them, let's say you run a backhoe and you're working for a construction company, don't become an employee of that company. If the company says they want to hire you, say you have your own business, your business is you. You don't necessarily even have to have a legal business. It could just be an independent proprietorship. By just doing that alone, you can get so many tax breaks in the U.S. You can write off pretty much every lunch, every dinner, you can even write off vacations. Why'd you go to Hawaii? Well, I wanted to go check out some construction techniques there. I spent 99% of the time at the beach, but I did look at some construction projects. So it was a work trip. So you write that off. You get so many more advantages like that.
That's a great point, Jeff. And I will definitely recommend people to do that, because as an employee, especially being an employee in the U.S., you could tax the highest out of all the other categories when it comes to the workforce. You have employees, you have self-employed, then you have the big business owners, then you have investors. You look at those four classes. Employees get taxed the highest. And I absolutely agree. If a person just make the switch to self-employed, they can get many more tax breaks and essentially have more disposable income for themselves.
Yeah, there's so many things. You can essentially, I did this 25 years ago. I was essentially doing that where I would just be a contractor. So I'd go to companies, I'd say, hey, I can do this. Back then I was doing websites at the very early days of 1993, 1994. And they'd say, okay, so we'll hire you as an employee. You'll be our web guy. And I'd say, no, just hire my company, which is just me, as a contractor. And then I wrote off everything. I don't think I ever paid taxes because essentially you can write off almost anything. You write off your car. You can even write off your mortgage or your home or your rent if you say that you're using your place as an office, at least part of it. So many more options. And then once you start to do that, you start gaining wealth because a lot of it's not going to the government anymore. Then once you get a certain amount of wealth, you can really expand your business or create a new business or do many of the things that Kallen was mentioning.
Yeah, for sure. Personally, you could start off to move to Mexico with something as small as $10,000. I mean, obviously, you can move to Mexico with more, depending on the type of quality of lifestyle that you want to have. But to keep in mind, the cost of living here is low, and the quality of life is much higher.
Yeah, I've lived all over the world, and I've been to about 100 countries, living as a perpetual tourist, prior taxpayer, and essentially working as an entrepreneur the entire time. And I've seen that in so many countries, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, Kallen. You get to a place, and it's like, why don't they have this service? This service would be perfect for this location. But many of these places are just not as entrepreneurial. There's, one of the things about the U.S. is it's very overregulated, overtaxed, too much government, police state, all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, it also has probably the most entrepreneurs in the world. So almost any business area you get into is highly competitive. Whereas when you get outside of that, you find that there's rarely any competition whatsoever.
I agree, and it just should encourage Americans, Canadians, or any type of citizen from the first world country. It just should encourage them to be able to take the leap, because again, if a person sets up shop and starts a business here, you would literally have no competition. Now, obviously, there are exceptions, okay? If you go to a place like San Miguel de Allende, you're going to have competition because there are gringo businesses there are businesses that cater to gringos specifically. If you go to places like Cancun, if you go to places like Cabo, if you go to those type of very huge expat communities, then you're going to have competition. But if you go to places that has a small expat population, then again, the opportunities are plentiful. I mean, now don't get me wrong. Places that have a, let's say, 3,000-4,000 expats, you can still do well there. But just imagine moving to a place like, for example, like here, that has less than 100 expats. You start a business that's more effective and more efficient. Again, everything here is pretty much mañana time. I mean, you're going to do absolutely much better. It doesn't have to be here. It could be, Tequis. It could be like the place you've been, Jeff, Tepoztlan. It could be a lot of these Mexican cities that's off the gringo path. That again, you come with your business more efficient, more effective, and again, there is no doubt that Mexicans will be happy to support you because they want it. Because again, they like those type of things, efficiency. But again, they don't have to drive to implement those systems.
Yeah, absolutely. I got one great example of people. There's a lot of people have moved here to Acapulco, a lot of anarchists, a lot of narco-capitalists, and they're all starting their own businesses. And I just moved to a new area in Acapulco. It's this new residential neighborhood. It's beautiful. And so we call the internet providers here, Telmex and Cable Mas and all of them. And most of them said they don't have the wiring to do it. But Telmex said, oh, yeah, no problem. We'll have it installed by the time that you rent the place that you're going to be moving to. So we move in. This was 3-4 months ago now. And they're like, mañana. And I should have known because, as you know, Kallen, mañana really does mean months or years here. It doesn't mean tomorrow. and there's they're not even apologetic about it. It's just, that's just how the culture is. And so then it sounded like Telmex was going to install fiber optics. And so I had a friend who's another expat, anarcho-capitalist who lives here, and he loves this new area I moved into. And he said, I'm going to go rent a place up in that area. I was like, okay, great. And he said, but you're going to have internet installed like next week, right? And this is around Christmas time. And I said, yeah, they said for sure this time. And, stupid me. So he moved in and no internet. And so I've been using my mobile phone with 4G, which is actually great, but it costs a fortune to use. But it's 15 megabit up and down, but it costs me about $2,000 a month to use for everything I need. And so he moves in and he's starting to panic. He's like, I need internet for my work, just like I do. And he doesn't really want to pay $2,000 a month for internet. And so we told some of the other narco-capitalists here, and they went and they found a place that both of us could see from here. As you can see, I'm up on a mountain essentially, so we can see almost anywhere in Acapulco. Did a deal with a guy in a restaurant and said, hey, can we install really high-speed internet in your restaurant because it's already wired for it, and we're going to put this dish up which can transmit wirelessly for miles and miles and miles, and all people need on the other end is a dish to receive it. And the restaurant owner said, yeah, sure, if you're going to pay for my internet and you're going to upgrade it to a higher speed, of course, yeah, you just put a dish on my roof, no problem. So now they're providing me with internet, they're providing my neighbor. Actually, the neighbor beside them, interesting story, is a Mexican. They're sort of entrepreneurs themselves, and they actually knew who I was. They said they're anarchists. So we have this whole anarchist neighborhood up here, and they do most of their business over the internet. And so they're like, who are these guys doing this? We want it. So they already have 3 clients. They just named it today. They call it GueroNet. Guero means white guys or gringos down here. So it's called GueroNet. And so they're taking over this entire neighborhood. I told them you should just go door to door with some pamphlets and tell people they can get high-speed internet through them because you can't get it through any of the local providers. So they might have already a fairly big business already, which is in just a few weeks, very typical. And of course, try doing that in the U.S. or anything like that. The regulations, it'd pretty much be impossible. But here in Mexico, pretty much anything goes.
I agree, and that's actually a smart idea. I mean, that's a business idea. That's a business idea right there. You know, for that expat, let's say, that just moved to Mexico, and let's say they got internet, but they understand the challenges that people may have. People who may be staying short term in Mexico, but they need internet. Absolutely, they can offer a service like that and do very well with that. So as you said, Jeff, it's, looking at the Mañana time, maybe people may say, oh, that's a con. That's a con. I need something more, efficient. I need something right away. If you look at the opposite side of the coin, it's actually a benefit because it gives you the opportunity to be able to serve a need. And there's no doubt about, again, why Mexicans won't be happy to support a more efficient and a more effective system. So what I would suggest is, again, what people need to do is they need to learn how to be better stewards of their finances. If you can be able to get creative as far as saving your money, then the faster you'll be able to get out of a place like wherever you're at. Let's say you hate New York, or let's say you hate LA, or wherever you're at. Definitely can expedite that time to help you be able to get out. Our book reached the finish line. It's been an international bestseller, as you stated earlier, and basically, I feel like it's an excellent blueprint to help people who want to, if they want to save money and get out, whether they want to go to Mexico or Thailand or wherever they want to go. It's an excellent blueprint to help people save money quickly and to be able to get out. Like, for example, one thing in the book I talk about is event promotions. And essentially, it's these big Fortune 1000, Inc. 1000 companies. And typically what they do is they don't hire outright. They typically look for like a marketing firm, a staffing agency to do all of their HR. But basically it's for a lot of let's say weekend programs, or let's say tours that go on for a week or maybe 2 weeks. And they're short term, but they pay pretty well. You can make anywhere between $20 to $30 an hour, and it's 1099, which is self-employed. You can write off whatever else. And those are some lucrative opportunities that you can consider that will expedite your process, that will allow you to save more money and be able to expatriate to another country outside the U.S. I think this is actually a good insight for people considering moving to Mexico. Flights are cheap, and flights are so cheap that a flight from Querétaro to Acapulco is $38.
What?
Yep. 30.
What airline is that?
That's TAR.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's great.
TAR.
Yeah, I've never flown with them before. I heard about them. That's amazing. What a deal.
Yeah. When I saw that, I didn't think twice.
Yeah, and just
so that's just an example. Yeah, I was going to say that's just an example to show people how travel. Let's say you want to be a mobile entrepreneur and go throughout Mexico. That's just one example of how travel is so cheap in Mexico. Airlines, again, as cheap as $38. When it comes to buses, as cheap as as cheap as $8 to $10. Yeah, you get a bus ticket there, or if you go farther, you may pay maybe 15 to 20 bucks. Traveling throughout the state of throughout the country of Mexico is extremely affordable.
I have the pleasure and opportunity to be able to help people to reach the finish line in careers. Everyone kind of has a different direction. Some people, they don't want to work for anybody anymore. They want to kind of have their own entrepreneur venture, and I help people with that. And then you have people who are currently struggling with their business, and they kind of need to kind of reform and transform their business in order to grow their business and get more national recognition. In which I also I have the privilege of being able to help people, and there's lots of people that kind of falls in between.